Hi everyone, we're live. Welcome to episode 7 of Spamhaus Deliverability Live. If you don't know me already, I'm Abby from Spamhaus, and I'd like to introduce you to our speakers, whichever direction they are in. Today I'm joined by Annalivia Ford, aka Angry Lady at Spamhaus, head of the removals team. And the lovely Alison Gootee, Compliance and Deliverability Enablement Principal at Braze. Braze.
Mouthful. You can just call me an angry lady at Braze too. That's fine.
Angry lady is so much easier. It's much more illustrative of the actual job.
Some people call me Al, and Al can stand for angry lady. So I think I'm gonna steal that one.
Perfect. I won't say what AF could stand for. Yeah, very excited to have you both here today, if not slightly worried about staying on topic, which is Spamhaus listing myths, fact or fiction. And we know there are a number of myths out there, so Liv and Al are going to set the facts straight. So get ready with your questions, and I will stop talking and hand over.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abby. Pleasure to be here. Thanks everyone for joining us today. After about a decade being in the deliverability space myself, I've certainly encountered a lot of myths about Spamhaus and worked hard to bust those with some of the customers that I work with. But I'm positive that Annalivia has much more information than I do, and I'd love to get her perspective on some of this stuff. So Annalivia, thanks for sharing with us what you are able to share. I understand there's a bit of secret sauce, so don't spill any beans that are unspillable, but really looking forward to hearing your perspective here. So one super persistent myth that I have heard before that I think has been around for quite a long time is that Spamhaus will charge for removals. So tell me, is it true that I have to pay you to be removed from this block list?
No. We've never charged for removals, and we never will. And anybody that says that we do is lying.
Oof,
it's
rough.
Simply not true. And there are some block lists that have historically charged for removals, and I think there are some that still do, but we are not one of them.
Well, that's a pleasure to hear. If that is true, though, what the heck are you doing this for? Why are you so mean? And is it true that you hate email and the people who send it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That one was a little off the cuff. So my next myth, and this is also quite persistent, I actually hear this probably every time that a customer is listed, which is, why is Spamhaus blocking my mail? So are you blocking people's mail, Annalivia?
No. We have been collating and publishing lists of things that we have reason to believe or evidence to believe are bad, and we publish those lists, and ISPs and other entities do with them what they wish to do. And sometimes that is not in line with our supported use. And unfortunately, since we publish our data largely for free, we don't have any recourse when people use it the way we should think that they shouldn't, like against their outbound mail. You should not be using CSS and XBL, for example, against your outbound mail by Spamhaus policy, but there are ISPs who choose to do that because their outbound spam problem is sufficiently large that they're willing to take the fallout of using the data that way, but we can't stop them.
Understandable. Now, here is a big one for me. I have fallen prey to this before. I have seen listings before where the sender was not even sending mail yet. They had just established an IP. So the myth that I have is that you have to hit a spam trap in order to be listed. Is that true?
No. No, it certainly helps. If you have a spam trap problem, it's certainly going to count against you. But we look at lots and lots of different things. We are not misconfig house, for example, but if you happen to configure your system in such a way that matches the signature of known malware, you act like malware, be treated like malware. So please don't do that. And There are, so we don't just look for spam. We look for malware, we look for viruses, we look for proxies, we look for a lot of things that aren't necessarily strictly spam. And when it comes to spam itself, there are literally thousands of heuristics that we look at, and spam traps are only one of them. Domain age, IP, sending patterns, it's all part of the stew. And
what about the
there's
word
not any
free? Does the word free, does the word free get me blacklisted?
no. No, maybe by someone else, but not by us. We don't look at keywords like that. But it's really important to have your hello exist in DNS, for example, because if you if a well-known network, say I'm just pulling it out of the air, Barclays decides to renumber their network and is suddenly helloing with, I don't know, MailChimp, because they've changed ESPs and somebody's done something silly with their hellos, all of a sudden it looks like an infected machine is pretending to be Barclays, and that's bad. So basic technical checks are a good thing to do when you're renumbering a network before you put things back online. It seems really obvious, but it happens way more often than I like to consider.
I think it does seem obvious to us because this is what we're looking at, but I feel like some of the people that I work with, they're email marketers, and so they're maybe not aware of the changes that are going on at the organization level. So they're not, they not know that Barclays has just done that. And so they're just like, oh, I'm just warming up my IP. What's going on? And they're confused by those changes. And so it is so interesting that, like, to us, something seems so obvious, or to you, it seems obvious. To me, I'm still learning sometimes. But to the customers, are just so confused because an organization such as Barclays, who I do not work with, but they're so large that there's just so many people touching the email and they have no idea what's going on. So many people touching the infrastructure, they're not talking to each other, which sometimes I think a red flag like yours kind of helps them figure out, oh my gosh, we have to inform each other of these things before we make these changes. So it's a tough lesson to learn, but
the really colossal DNS failures of this kind usually happen with really big organizations, and it's a left-hand, right-hand issue, just like you said, and it really sucks for everybody involved, because we're contrary to popular belief, we're not actually out to get anybody, and I know. Oh, we actually want to help.
What's the point? What is the point?
We're not out to make anybody's life miserable, but if something really stupid or bad happens with DNS, and sometimes it can just be DNS because it's always DNS, and it's not necessarily someone who's done something stupid, it's just DNS is hard and a bit flaky sometimes. Anyway, there's a lot more to it than just spam traps, and you wouldn't believe the people who write in and they're getting listed because of spam traps, because that actually does happen, of course. And I try to tell them that their financial updates to their customers with all the PII and their account information, everything else, is actually being sent to us instead of the customers that should be getting it. And they don't understand why that's bad. Yes. And it's incredibly frustrating to me that a financial institution or hospitals, companies that you would think would find guarding PII important, somehow when it comes to email, this goes straight over their heads, and they don't understand. Like, I've had to explain the concept of a spam trap to somebody who runs a really big mail system. I don't understand how you can be in email in 2024 and not know what a spam trap is.
I almost think it's like the opposite. Email has been around so long now that people are like, what do you mean there's a thing about email I've never heard of? It's 2024. What's a spam trap? And, it's so funny because it's like everything old is new again. Every year we have this fear mongering about email is going to die. And I'm thinking, no, we've got new people joining up all the time who have no idea what to do. So I feel fairly secure in my job. I think it's interesting because, people are always saying, oh, AI is coming for our job. And I'm like, AI has my job. That's how I got a job. AI gave me my job. It's the spam filters. It's because of them that I get to talk to people about what the heck is going on behind the scenes. Cool. We've got about 5 minutes left, and we actually got a submission from Grant Walker. Hi, Grant. Nice to see you here. A myth that he has heard is that Spamhaus has the power to shut down entire ISPs. Is that fact or fiction, Annalivia?
It's true. We could. I mean, it's not something that is done by accident or even on purpose without very careful consideration, but it is absolutely possible, yes. Whether it's done is another question. And I don't remember that happening in
Years.
well,
Days.
I don't remember that happening. No, not days. Come on now. No, if something goes horribly wrong at a technical level and things go, well, horribly wrong, it could happen, but escalating like that would be very dangerous. And yes, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And blocking an ISP falls into that category, I think.
With great power comes great responsibility. So we appreciate that you use yours wisely. I was lucky enough to recently have a blog that you all helped me with and publish on your site, which is so kind of you. Thank you. I meant to talk about this a lot more, but I really wanted to hear you talking a lot. But I did want to talk a little bit about consent and just how that relates to things like a Spamhaus listing. To your point about like financial information or health information, I think senders like that find it just very hard to believe that they would potentially be sending to the wrong person. And I still think a lot of this just boils down to that true consent. You need to be contacting the right person. Just because someone has given you an address does not mean it's their address. If I have Allison@gmail.com, I might type too fast and put Alcyon@gmail.com, and then you're sending email to some totally different person. And so I think there's just this assumption that with transactional communications or health related or bank related items, like, of course people want this, it's so important. And like, yes, they do want it, which is exactly why you should perform something like confirmed opt-in, double opt-in, so that you are sending to the right person and you know it. You know that address can receive mail, which is great, but you also have that confirmation that it is the correct person so that you're not potentially breaking the law and sending these really critical communications to the wrong person. And so I think the consent piece is just so important all along the path of email and in life in general, because you just never know unless you have that really super affirmative consent. It's not about, how valuable the content is. It's just about human behavior at the end of the day, because that, people make mistakes. And, I think very highly of Spamhaus, as we all do, but is it a myth that Spamhaus never messes up? Is that true?
Of course not. We're human beings. Everybody screws up. Unfortunately, we do too, but we try to keep it to a minimum.
Same. And that's all we ask, right? Just keep those screw ups to a minimum. We are here to help you. Spamhaus does not want to block your mail if you are not a malicious sender. If you're doing everything right, reach out. Annalivia's team is happy to help. They've been very helpful to me before, maybe a little bit salty, and I appreciate that, and a removals team. So, if you've done something wrong, they'll certainly let you know. But they don't want your business to suffer just because you made a mistake. We want everyone to be better senders. We want to protect email for the future and make sure that it maintains its usability. So thank you so much to Spamhaus for maintaining that safe internet for us. I really appreciate it. And thanks for owning up to your mistakes when you make them. That is certainly also appreciated. And I think we're at our final minute, and I don't know that we have any more questions. So Abby, you got anything to wrap us up with?
I'm back. Thank
Yay.
you. That was great. It was going to be a lot of fun, and you managed it without any profanities. Yay.
Did we? Oh,
I had to try really hard.
But yeah, thanks to everyone who's joined us today. We hope we busted all your myths. If we didn't get around to your question, if you maybe drop one in the chat later, we'll make sure we pick it up in the comments. And yeah, keep an eye out for details of the next episode. So yeah, thanks guys. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Abby.
much. This is great.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao, babies.